I've had two somewhat similar questions concerning money and travel that I'll answer at the same time. The first one was when I quit my job as a civil engineer years ago to jump out on my own and do my own thing, did I have a lot saved? Did I have a lot of money saved that allowed me the flexibility to jump out on my own? The short answer is no. In fact, I was thousands of dollars in debt. And then the follow-up question to that was, how could you be thousands of dollars in debt when you had been working 7 years as a civil engineer? And that's, that's the easy part. From the first day that I started as a civil engineer, I realized, as I say in my introductions, I realized beyond the shadow of a doubt that I hated it. So I was always looking for ways to jump out on my own. So I was starting my own record label, managing artists. So a lot of the money just got spent doing things that I hoped would eventually free me. So that, that's the easy part of why I didn't have any money when I actually decided to quit my job. And the follow-up to that is, if you didn't have a lot of money saved, how on earth could you quit your job? And the thing that stops people from jumping out on their own is not the money, from my experience and even from other people I've spoken to. It's not, the fact that they don't have enough money saved, or, they're waiting to get, you'll hear some people say they're waiting to get all their ducks in a row. The reason boils down to fear. Whether you have the savings or not, whether you have the money or not, the real reason that people are afraid of jumping out is simply because they don't have a roadmap to follow. They don't have any experience being a full-time entrepreneur. So it's the fear that prevents them more than anything else. And that's what I realized. So the only thing that changed from the day that I decided to jump out on my own, from the day before that and the day that I actually did it, it was just that I built up the courage. I had an experience that through which I built up the courage to actually jump out on my own, and made a decision that I would succeed no matter what, and that I would not go backwards. So what I found from my experience is that it's the fear that stops people. It's not the money. It's not the level of preparedness. It's just your determination to do the thing that needs to get done. So that's my experience, and that's my answer. Now, the other question that I get has to do with travel. A lot of people are also reluctant to jump out on their own and do what I did. Let's say travel through China for 6 months, or Singapore or Laos, because they feel that it's expensive. And my experience, being the cheapskate that I am, have found that it's not as expensive as you might believe. I personally stay in hostels. There are other options as well. You could do couch surfing. If you're not familiar with that, you can look up the couch surfing site. That's essentially an informal network of people around the world who are willing to have you stay in their homes. They get the pleasure of having you as a foreigner visit them, and you get the convenience of having a place to stay. I've used a couch surfing service to make friends. I typically like my privacy, so I stay in hostels or cheap hotels. But that's another option as well. So in terms of the accommodations, it's not as expensive as what you might believe. I spent 6 months in China, and every hostel or hotel I stayed was no more than $20 a night. All right, and now as far as the air travel itself, I typically fly domestic airlines. So when I'm in China, I went on, I'm not sure if this site is still up, but elong.net and elong.com, and signed up, bought tickets on domestic airlines within China. And those tend to be much cheaper than if you do the international airlines. So the answer to that question is, it's not that as expensive as you might believe. If you make the effort to find the cheap airfares and go through hostels and couch surfing. You can actually live out your dream and travel the world at very low expense, relatively speaking, if depending on where your income is coming from. So that's my answer to that question. Hope that is helpful, and I'll see you next time.